This is Ben.
Daniel.
I'm Aaron.
Fabien from the group Les Cinglés.
And you're listening to the Group Ride Podcast.
Welcome to episode 21 of the Group Ride Podcast. This is a podcast for cycling in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. I'm your host, Wes Salmon, and today on the show, I sit down with a small group of Seattle-based cyclists to talk about their latest obsession, Everesting. Clip in, riders, the Group Ride Podcast is rolling out. I am in Redmond, Washington, talking to a group of guys who put together a series of rides that are pretty insane. So I'm going to go around the room and have everyone introduce themselves really quickly so you know who we're talking to.
Yeah, I'm Daniel Perry, a recreational cyclist, and this month will be my second year on a bike since I was a kid.
I'm Aaron Elston, also a recreational cyclist. This is 9 months in for me.
My name is Fabien Aguero. I'm also a recreational cyclist and coming from France.
This is Ben Hager. I've been cycling somewhat seriously for about a year now.
Okay, so you guys are all recreational cyclists. I've got you on the show because you guys have been doing some rides recently that have caught the attention of a number of people in the area as well as worldwide. Tell me about this thing called Everesting.
Yeah, Everesting is actually ridiculously simple. It's the idea is to pick a single hill and ride up and down the same hill until you've gained the equivalent elevation of Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world.
It's really easily confused in conversation though. Mm-hmm. The goal is individual. It's not as a team. Mm-hmm. I mean, we make all of our goals team goals, but each individual has to ride to the height of Mount Everest.
Oh yeah.
It's not a relay.
Yeah, we're not passing off, each lap doing, round robin style.
Yeah.
It's the full effort, 29,029 feet.
Yeah, so we're all up for our first Everest was about 28 hours. Is that right?
About that, yeah.
About 28 hours riding the whole time. I mean, you get off the bike, you get drinks of water, get food, but the main rule is no sleeping.
Yeah. That's the tough part.
That is the crux of it.
So you mentioned it's not a relay, but you are helping each other from a team perspective in motivation and as well as possibly drafting on some of the flatter parts.
I mean, there's no real, it's a hill climb.
Yeah.
So maybe drafting on the downhill, but usually we're giving space so we don't crash and,
you
giving
just
room
really
on the
want
downhill, especially later on when you're pretty tired.
You want to be careful, especially going downhill. So we'll definitely give each other enough space that there's not much drafting that we gain from that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's mostly kind of emotional support.
Yeah.
Support. Yeah.
We're there for each other.
Good.
Yeah. and it means a lot to have someone riding with you. So
So this is probably a silly question, but you guys referenced yourself as a team. Do you have a team name?
What is it, Fabien?
Fabien, you want to say it?
Yeah.
So our team name is Les Cinglés, which is a French word that means the craziest.
Yeah, the crazy.
The crazies.
Yeah.
That seems pretty fitting.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your first Everest. What was your first Everesting attempt as a team?
That was Cherry Valley. We were looking for ideas, and I saw a ride Justin Pryor had done, and Fabien and I were kind of kicking it around. We thought it might be a good option.
So Cherry Valley's out in Snohomish County?
Yeah.
Right at the Duval limit where King County and Snohomish meet?
I think it's just south of Monroe.
Right on 203?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, off 203, exactly. And there's two roads there, which is kind of confusing.
Yeah.
So we actually had some people show up in support on the wrong hill that day. We didn't find out till later, I guess. Yeah. But it's the one that has the High Rock Road option, and it goes up to that kicker at the top, Kings Lake or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how tall is Cherry Valley?
It's 1,005 feet, the climb.
That's a really beautiful number if you're trying to count feet. So.
Yeah, it's nice and round, 1,000. That's for an Everesting, that's 29 laps.
Yeah.
Maybe an extra just for safety.
Right.
Yeah.
For high roller, like we all did, it was 33 and a half laps, I think.
Yeah.
Because high roller is 10,000 meters?
10,000 meters.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like
32,808,
I think. Yeah. So.
Yep.
You guys know exactly what it is. Don't act like you don't.
Every single foot.
So one of the funny things that you mentioned was the just for a little safety, you talked about doing a little bit more. Do you guys find that there is a number of issues with your Garmin's or whatever you're using to record your Everesting attempts that you make sure that you compensate for by going a little bit longer so you don't miss it by just a few meters?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have the barometer readout on the Garmin, but that's affected by weather pressure.
Yeah.
You know, so for that one, it was really easy because it was such a round number. We knew how many laps, and you could keep, 33 is not a big number, unlike the second attempt we did, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Well,
I think you threw on the
Daniel.
count.
Yeah, Daniel discovered and pointed out to us that it'd be very useful to cover up your Garmin if it's wet with a plastic bag. So if you see pictures of us on our first Everesting, we all have like plastic bags hanging out the front of our bike.
Yeah, Garmin condoms.
Garmin condoms.
Yeah.
Well put.
And that's not for electronic reasons. That's because the barometric pressure sensor gets clogged with water, and then it no longer functions. It doesn't read pressure.
Yeah,
so
3 laps.
Interesting.
Yeah. If you're out riding in the rain with your Garmin, you might notice your elevation gain is nearly zero.
Yeah.
Even though you've been doing some climbing, that's why.
So you guys did a Cherry Valley Everesting attempt. This was earlier in 2017, I believe.
It was like April 22nd or something like that, I think.
After that, what made you guys decide you wanted to do another one? It sounds like that's enough for the year, but you guys decided to do something.
No,
I don't think we decided to do that was these two guys.
Yeah, so Fabian and Daniel were the ones that at the end of the Everesting.
I don't know when exactly. I think it was in the car when we were waiting.
Yeah.
Because we were ahead of Aaron and Ben, and we had to wait in the car because we wanted to finish the Everesting all together.
To make sure we got the first descent on the hill together.
Yeah.
We weren't sure how close we would have to be together for it to count.
And so to stay awake, we tried to talk a bit, Daniel and I, and we were feeling pretty good. And that's when we, the first talk about doing a double came was at that time. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. All I knew is that we finished, and Daniel and Fabian, felt like they had more to give, and so
they saved their last lap. You can't sleep. Part of the rules.
Mm-hmm. Part of the rules,
They've been going for 20 plus hours, 24 hours or whatever.
Yeah, really
they had to
hard
save
to
their
do.
last lap, and they were 4 hours ahead of us.
Wow.
So we had to wait 4 hours for Ben and I to finish our crank out our last laps before we could do that final together.
Did they have to stay awake for those 4 hours?
They did.
Oh, yeah.
They did. Yeah.
That's teamwork.
Go ahead.
It's actually pretty amazing if you think about trying to pace a 24-hour effort over 4 people. So the fact that Fabian was 4 hours ahead, I was only 2 hours ahead, but to have all of us that close at the end of a 24-hour effort, I think was great.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it was it was really great that you guys waited for us. By the way, it was nice to have you on the last couple of laps as well. Like mentally, that provided a really big boost.
Yeah. Solidarity.
Yeah, having that solidarity, that team crossing the line together.
So that was 30 laps or 33 laps, 1,000 feet each lap. What was the distance on that?
200 miles. Yeah.
Wow.
I parked in a different place, so I had like 4 more miles than them.
And I was like,
God,
I was 190. You guys all know. I was like the last to finish. I was a lap behind Ben at the end. And so I did one more by myself. It's dark, it's raining, it's 10 p.m. Sunday night.
It was so shitty.
It was just crap.
So
it was
bad.
cold. And anyway, so I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good. And when I finished and I uploaded it to Strava, 199.9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had actually ridden
And it was
around
my
a little
longest
bit
ride
extra just to get to 200.
Yeah.
And he's still
I missed
it
it by like 0.7.
Yeah.
You should throw that out. That didn't even count, really.
Delete.
So you guys finished that one, and you started to scheme for your next one. What was going to be your next attempt? What was the planning like for your next attempt at your next Everest?
Initially, we were talking about your Madrona climb.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I wanted to do a climb in Madrona.
Yeah.
That I thought it was really good sentiment for us because during a lot of our rides, we would get to this climb in Madrona and kind of make the decision, how good are we feeling? Are we willing to give everything we have to go up this hill, just hammer it out? Mm-hmm. And so I thought it would be really cool to make that hill that was kind of the measure of what you had left, our next Everesting. But to be honest, it's probably not the best Everesting hill. And if we're talking about double Everesting as well, you compile so much, all those little tiny things that aren't great, add up. There's more traffic on it. It flattens out for a section, which adds a lot of miles over that distance. But yeah, that was my initial idea.
Yeah.
But Daniel had already scouted out a climb over in Where was it?
Bothell.
Bothell?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say Redmond, but
Yeah, you mentioned something interesting about it not being a good Everesting climb. What makes a hill a good Everesting climb?
So I would think that if you asked someone who'd completed one, everyone might have a slightly different answer. For me, I have 3 criteria, and they go in that order. The first one is, do I want to spend 24 hours on this hill? Do I like the climb? Do I enjoy it? Number 2, is it something people can relate to? Is it something that they can go, oh, wow, I've ridden that hill before? Or they can come visit us even during the attempt. So relatability of the climb. And then third would be if it has good statistics for Everesting. So to gain that elevation, how many miles will you have to do? Because the grade, depending on the grade, you would have a lot of variance between the mileage from one effort to another. The steeper hill, you'll have less miles to get the same elevation gain. So
Right.
you kind of have to decide how much you want your back to hurt and your knees to complain, and
oh yeah,
and how technical the descent is. Traffic.
Yeah.
Traffic was not a deterrent, but it was part of the conversation every time,
Yeah.
I think. Where to park. Where can you park your car? Because you don't want to carry much with you, and you want lots of backup stuff. Food, water, spare parts for the bike, clothing. Clothing changes are fantastic.
I didn't change my socks during the second one.
I've never changed during an Everesting. No, on the second one I did. I had to.
Yeah.
My chamois was dying. I killed it.
Do you guys agree with the list of criteria there, or do you have your own criteria as well?
Yeah, I think my number one is the distance. The grade that determines how much distance there is. That's kind of what I was focused on. And on the first one for sure, Cherry Valley, I know we leaned a lot on Daniel because he had done an Everesting before on his own when he did the Zoo Hill one back in November. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that helped a lot when we were trying to figure all that stuff out.
Yeah.
He had a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, I think personally, for anybody who's curious about doing an Everesting, like if you look at that segment, that's about perfect for a first attempt. Like if you just don't know what you have in the tank, or you've never pushed yourself for that amount of time, I don't think it gets much better than that road for it.
So you guys chose a second road for your second Everesting attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how that came about. You chose Norway Hill in Bothell, which is a smaller climb than Cherry Valley Road, but possibly better suited for what you mentioned earlier about having the ability for people to come out and identify with the hill, because it's something a lot of people may have ridden already because it's on a few of the routes that people do for Seven Hills of Kirkland and a few other the rides.
Yep.
So what was that about? Like, what was the planning there, if any, or did you guys just show up and do it?
No, I guess that was probably my suggestion. I had done the math for that hill in the past. It was one that I was interested in after doing Zoo Hill. So already knew the numbers for it, and it fit my first 2 criteria.
Right.
Definitely was long for what we tried. So maybe the statistics weren't the greatest, but yeah, definitely hit the first 2. It's something I really enjoyed, one of my favorite climbs. Doing lots of rides with Native Planet. Cascade used that hill all the time, so I was very familiar with it. And then number 2, yeah, like you mentioned, most people know where Norway Hill is. Most people have been up it before. They can relate, and to come visit us is no big deal. It's close to Seattle, it's close to Bothell, it's close to the east side. Yep.
Why did you guys pick the harder side? There's 2 sides of Norway Hill. You guys picked the harder side.
Who wants the easy side?
Yeah.
It's still available.
You're talking to guys here that don't stop at the Everesting. They continue on to the high roller 10,000 meter mark. So we always want that little extra.
Did you guys consider going over both sides and making that part of the route?
So that you could do that, but the problem that you run into is that if you don't complete the double, you get nothing.
Yeah, you failed both segments.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So you have to do each segment individually, essentially. Like if you were to roll over the top each time, you're counting 2 Everesting simultaneously rather than rolling up and down one side. You count up one, then you count up the next.
So the Everesting has to be up one hill and then down that same hill as the lap, as opposed to up and over both sides of a hill. Who makes these rules up? That's ridiculous. It's elevation, man.
Australians.
Australia?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Enough said.
They work in metric too. Jeez.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of crazy ideas, so that was your plan for your second Everesting attempt. Tell me how this evolved into a double Everesting attempt, where you guys were going to do 2 Everestings in one attempt. Whose idea was that?
I think that was the idea
I
from the
only
beginning.
ever heard it
Okay.
posited
Yeah.
as a double.
Yeah, that's
Single
the only.
wasn't even.
Yeah, that was the only thing that came up. I don't think we
Yeah.
would have done another Everesting this year unless it was going to be bigger and better and different.
So you guys did Cherry Valley, and you said, "Man, that was great, but we will never do something that easy again. We're going to just kill it."
That was
No,
not
no.
the conversation. No.
I don't know. Fabian's got a look on his face like that was how it was.
No, I mean,
Fabian and Daniel, that's
Yeah.
how it was.
I mean, like what I think about this group is like we're all about like pushing ourselves and challenging ourselves, and we knew that we could do one already.
Right.
So that was like the gimme. Like we know we can get through one. So why would we do it again? We've already proven that. So then it was the next thing was, okay, can we do two? So that's where the conversation started.
Yeah, because these rides that we go out on, like these big rides that we plan, it's like it's all about finding where is that limit at, and can I push it further?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was just the natural progression.
So when you decided to do your double Everesting because everything else would be too easy, I'll just put it that way.
It's not too easy. Oh no, it's a challenge.
How did you guys decide to prepare differently than you did for the first one? Did you just bring double the amount of food and double the amount of clothing and plan for double the amount of time, or did you guys have a different training plan in mind? Or, I'm sorry, let me
Wait,
back
are we
up.
talking training
I
or are we
had-
talking
I-
preparation?
yeah.
Did you guys train at all for this?
I had a completely different training plan, and it did not work at all.
Yeah, we.
At all.
Aaron's got the most interesting story, so I think you should tell his first.
Okay, so why
Yeah,
did your
first.
training plan not work? Tell me what it involved and
So-
what failed.
Getting sick and
Yeah, here's what happened. So Fabian and I, with another two guys, we went and did the Course de Equipe ride that the Redmond Cycling Club put on. I guess
Yep.
it's the first year.
Yep.
And I pushed really hard that ride because it was a quote unquote race, So we pushed really hard.
First thing we kind of called a race.
Yeah, and that was my
Right.
first race. I'd never done a race.
Guys,
Yeah.
every bike ride is a race.
Yeah,
It's true.
With two bikes on the road, it's a race.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
right.
true, but
Yeah.
at the end of most rides, you don't say that it was a race. But this one, at the end,
Only if you
Yeah,
win.
it was a race.
Is it a race? Okay, go ahead.
And when we did, we started last and we placed first, so we were pretty proud of that, our team. But I pushed so hard on that ride. I've never pushed that hard before, and I think it compromised my immune system. And the following 2 weeks, I was sick.
Oh, wow.
Like I haven't been sick like that since I don't know, in like 15 years. And so that was the 2 weeks leading up to the double Everesting attempt. So I wasn't eating a lot. I lost weight. So I was in pretty poor form when I showed up, and I wasn't even sure that I was going to show up. Daniel's over here smiling. I think these guys were all kind of surprised that I was even there.
No, we were very surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fabian and I were still meeting for our regular like Tuesday,
Yeah.
Thursday, like morning rides before work. And every single time we met, we're like, okay, how's Aaron? How's he doing?
Yeah.
Like, is he going to show up? Like, and then like the Thursday before, we were going to ride Saturday. The Thursday before, he didn't show up, and we were like, oh fuck, like,
Not looking good.
Aaron's not going to be here. And I mean, like mentally for me, that's a hit
Yeah.
because like I kind of lean on Aaron pretty heavily for support. So
On the
yeah.
first Everesting, Ben and I got each other because we were behind these two, right? And
we're the slow ones.
yeah, so we really leaned on each other to get through that.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have finished the first one if Ben wasn't there, and maybe the same is true for him.
Yeah, I doubt I would have.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the rest of you guys for as far as training? Just another day at the office?
Yeah, nothing specific.
nothing specific for me neither.
No.
Actually, I think we trained less for the second one than for the first one.
We were
Just because the challenge wasn't enough by itself.
Yeah, so we said, okay, it's too easy, so we won't train.
Yeah.
No, it's just, I don't know why we didn't train, but as much as we did for the first
Yeah.
one. But
I wasn't around as much. I was I had a lot of weekends where I was, off like sailing my professor's boat or like, spending time with my girlfriend or, essentially like recouping like from the last Everesting. And by the time and actually I only committed to this I think like 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
I remember your comment. It was priceless. We were on Facebook Messenger. We have a group,
Yeah.
right? We're talking all the time.
Yeah.
And these guys posited the question, and they're like, Ben and Aaron, you guys want to do a double Everesting? And Ben's like, hold on, I need to process this.
Because that was painful. The first
And
Everesting
I was like, that's
was
exactly
really hard.
what I'm going through
Yeah.
right now, reading this.
Yeah, so like to commit to like twice the amount of pain and difficulty was like it was you just like that's a lot to put yourself through.
And then you immediately started problem solving. And I think
Mm-hmm.
my reply to that was, so you're in? And it was all over.
Yeah. I mean, like as soon as you challenge me with something like that, I'm gonna think about how I can complete it. So that was
Good to know.
Yeah.
So that day you guys showed up. What time did you start? What time did you get to the bottom of the hill?
So that's kind of the interesting thing here. Ben
Okay.
has a special schedule, or
Yeah.
he had a special schedule.
Yeah, I did. So the job that I have, I actually this last quarter I was on a Tuesday through Saturday shift. So most people are off Saturday, Sunday, but I was actually working on Saturday. I managed to convince these guys, they were so gracious, to wait for me to get off of work before we started. So we actually only started in the late afternoon, like 4 o'clock, 4:30, something like that.
Yeah.
So we got started in the late afternoon, which I thought I thought it might be a good thing that, you get the night over with first while you're still fresh. But it's not ideal, if you're not able to sleep, which is like, I think the situation with a lot of these big rides is you're so nervous going up to them, you don't sleep very well. But yeah, I definitely had trouble with sleep. And that was the thing that I ran into. My problem is I just fell asleep. I couldn't continue to ride. I was hallucinating. I saw all sorts of stuff on the road. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
So let's break down the ride into multiple parts here. So how long was the ride total? Like 50 hours for the longest part? Maybe 47, 48?
Yeah, so the double Everesting, I had 56 hours total and 44 moving.
Okay, so let's break it down to 12-hour chunks. The first 12 hours, how bad was that? That was 4 p.m. roughly to 4 a.m. the next day. That's pretty reasonable. It wasn't very hot because it was overnight. You guys were in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No rain, I don't think, happened
No.
over that weekend.
Yeah.
Oh
was
no,
pretty-
there was one moment I remember. I remember this very distinctly. Daniel and I were riding up. We were topping out. I don't know what lap it was, how far in we were. It must have been on
It was
Monday.
pretty far in.
And a couple drops fell, and he got so upset. he was
All
so
I asked
mentally
for.
taxed.
Yeah.
That's what he said. All I asked for was no rain,
he's
and it was
just so
literally a couple
stoic.
drops, and it was over.
Yeah.
and he was just losing
Yeah.
it. I remember. I mean, from my perspective, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it was
accurate.
funny.
That is really good. So for the first 12 hours, other than the little freak out about the rain, you guys were pretty good. Did everybody stay together for the first 12 hours effectively? Did you guys wait at the
not
top
really.
and regroup, or did you
I
do it at
think-
your own pace?
Fabian got a lap or two ahead. Daniel got a lap ahead. The first 12 hours were pretty easy.
I remember being 8 hours in, and then you and I like had a conversation like, this is kind of fun still. Like, I'm still having a good
Yeah,
time.
I remember just seeing the miles and the hours tick by,
Yeah.
and I was just happy that I was still on the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had been
Right.
sick for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I literally brought a box of Imodium with me. I mean, I was in bad shape,
Yeah.
so I was happy that I was still on the bike after 8 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so you hinted at something that is on my list of things to talk about logistically. How do you deal with situations where you're going for 40, 50 hours straight? You're out on a road that is not near your house, not near a porta potty that is readily available. Tell me a story that is appropriate for our younger listeners.
Yeah.
Well, there's two, right? There's the first
Yeah.
Everesting and the second Everesting, and they're completely different.
The second Everesting was like VIP compared to the first one in terms of toilet access. So
Do tell.
Yeah, there were just happened to be two construction sites at the top of the hill. One
Yeah.
was government ran, and one may have not been. But there were two outhouses that were
Yeah.
unlocked, and
Available.
we brought our own toilet paper, so we felt like we were giving back, really.
That's important. And this was at the top of the toll pipeline goes across Norway Hill there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you guys lucked out. Did you
We did.
know that when you were planning it? Had you scouted out?
Yes, we were
Okay.
just kind of hoping that they would still be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you bring bolt cutters in case they were locked up?
no.
Nope.
You could have. That'd have been awesome.
So
Okay.
Everesting number 1, we just brought a shovel, which was a last minute addition.
Yeah.
You bought it on the way there.
Yes.
En route. Yeah.
And I don't think we got to use it because it was stolen.
Yeah.
we hid it in the woods behind a tree, and then someone went to use it. And it was gone.
Dude, I live out in Duval. expect that. You're in Duval. Yeah.
How did they find it?
Yeah,
I don't
that was
understand.
weird.
There's
Yeah.
just woods people out there doing stuff, man.
Yeah.
So that's my next question. Did you guys get any pushback from the neighbors or the
Oh.
people in the neighborhood about using the
Well,
roads?
We don't know exactly who it was that was,
On the first
like
one?
out being upset at us, but
You're talking about the two trucks in the middle of the night?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
all in all, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But there was it just you and me, I think, that experienced that?
I'm not sure. Fabian,
No,
you
you were
might have
with
been
us
riding
too.
with
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
On the
Fabian, Ben,
first
and I.
Everesting.
In the first
Yeah.
one at Cherry
Yeah, yeah.
Valley. We got buzzed by two trucks in the middle of the night. I don't know what time it was. Dark
Probably like
hours.
2 or 3
a.m.
o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
And they go flying by us, and then 5 minutes later, maybe less, they'd come flying back again, and then flying back again, and three times.
Yeah, the
doing
thing
back and
that
forth.
really like bothered me was that like they were clearly just trying to like get at us
Mm-hmm.
because they slowed down right as they approached. They did, like of course big diesel trucks.
Mm-hmm.
They slowed down and then slammed the gas right as they passed.
So they're trying to roll
Trying to
coal
smoke
on you,
us.
basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, you're out in
Yeah.
Duval. I live in
It's
Duval.
dark.
That's
you're in the
life.
middle of nowhere, and I started. Honestly, I was a little creeped out. I was like, if these guys are actually want us to get off the road, what are they willing to do to get us off
Yeah,
of it?
yeah.
That's.
I remember saying, let's turn off our lights, pull off into a driveway, because there were driveways up the whole thing.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
disappeared after 3 flybys.
Yeah.
So,
They got bored.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Went on to something else.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks,
So the
man.
first 12 hours, you guys had access to the bathrooms. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody felt good. This was the second day. This was probably Sunday from
Yeah.
4 a.m. to 4 p.m. How was that second 12 hours?
Oh, no. No.
Is that where it all went downhill?
I remember 4 a.m., 5 to 5 a.m., Ben and I were laying in the grass at the Norway Hill sign, really just hurting.
In bad shape.
We were in really
Yeah.
bad shape.
Yeah.
We had kind of...
And you guys hadn't even
wall.
finished a single Everest by that point.
No.
No, we were... I don't know how far in we were. High teens.
Yeah.
Maybe, 17,000 feet, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd started hallucinating, and that's I'm fine with hallucinating while I'm climbing 'cause I'm going like 5-7 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But once you're at the top, you have to turn around and go back down. So I was at the top, and I was just like, I can't descend in this state. So I sat down, and it was light out. So I thought,
Yeah.
I'll just sit this out for a minute, and I'll feel better. But that wasn't the case. It just felt like it just kept dragging, and I was just like
Yeah.
in the middle of this like half awake, half asleep state for a long time.
What kind of
Yeah.
unicorns were you seeing?
Yeah.
So that was actually the first night. So the first night it was like I believe I saw 1 or 2 deer, which there were no deer. There were a lot of rabbits.
Yeah, lots of rabbits.
Yeah.
There were goats.
That
was
There were
Monday,
actually
though,
no, there
right?
were. There
That
were
was Saturday.
actually
That was
goats.
Saturday.
Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There were 3 goats tied up in this driveway
Lawnmowers.
eating. Yeah, lawnmowers.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So sounds like Aaron and Ben, you guys were pretty tore up after the first 12 hours. Fabian and Daniel, how'd you guys do on the first or the second 12 hours? It sounds like you guys were pulling the pace really well with no real issues.
Yeah, I mean, Sunday, that second 12 hours is when the heat happened. Sunday set record highs in Seattle. I'm not sure what we saw, maybe 93, 94 degrees.
It was
but-
really hot. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was something we talked about before the event, because we saw the weather report. But the one thing I love about this group is there was never it was part of the conversation. We all talked about how to overcome it, but nobody was like, hey, you think we might want to reconsider? Or maybe like, let's do a different day. That never even came up, which is what I love about this group. But the real bonus was that climb. We didn't plan it this way, but the climb is actually probably 80% shaded.
Yeah.
And there was a breeze the entire time. So
Nice.
For 93 degrees, it was rather pleasant.
Yeah.
Yeah. We loved it.
Except for the whole climbing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Point.
Yeah.
it's low effort climbing.
Okay, so Sunday, 4 p.m., you guys roll into the second day from 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. on Sunday. Did you guys recover?
I didn't make it that far.
You didn't make it that far? Where'd you
I
tap
think I
out?
stopped at 2 p.m. Do you guys remember?
Yeah,
it was around 2 p.m.
It was around the hottest part of the day.
It was 20. I hit 20,000
Afternoon.
feet. However many laps that was, I don't
was
remember.
after
50
lunch.
laps. 50 laps. It was after
Around
lunch.
3
Actually, it
p.m.
was after Choman got us ice cream.
Oh,
He
yeah.
did a Ben and Jerry's
yeah,
run
right.
for us.
Nice.
He brought back just like 6 pints. It was awesome. But I wasn't mentally strong enough. I had too many hurdles to overcome, and yeah, it was just too taxing. I couldn't do it.
I mean, being sick 2 weeks prior, not really having a whole bunch of training. I mean,
Yeah.
you went further than I would have gone with a whole bunch of training.
Yeah, I mean the heat was definitely a problem. The I had a couple times where I was topping out on a few of the laps, and I was really going to mess up somebody's yard if I didn't make it to that porta potty. We'll just leave it at that. So I did 3 laps of that, and then I was like, okay, I'm taking a break, and that's when we were sitting, Ben and I, from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. And then from whatever 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., it was just so slow, my progression. It was never going to end, and that was part of the mental hurdle. So yeah, I had to call it.
And what did you do when you called it? Did you just get in the car and go to sleep? Or?
So no, I didn't live far from there. I was like 10 minutes. So, I told these guys if they're still riding that night, because nobody knew what was going to happen after the first Everesting, that I would try and come back. So I went home and took a nap for about 2 hours, in the afternoon that evening. Woke up, hung out with my family, went back to bed, woke up, saw these guys were still riding, was super stoked, and they came back out and rode with them.
Nice.
On Monday, I guess that was. Yeah. So
They did twice.
yeah, I came
back twice.
back. I came back 3 times, but I only rode 2 of those times. So anyway,
Cool. So that was the second day, first 12 hours. At that point, 36 hours in, how far had you guys gone? You'd already done one Everest by that point. But how far did you have left to go? This would have been 4 a.m. Monday morning.
Yeah, so at that point, I don't remember what time did you
I was out by like 2 o'clock in the morning, I think. Yeah.
That's when you called it.
Yeah, so
Monday morning.
My first episode of hallucinating, I eventually got past, and I started to wake up again. And then I got back on the bike and I finished the first Everesting. And I was between my first Everesting and the high rollers, which is 10,000 meters. And I started hallucinating a second time, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I pushed through 2 more laps of that, and it got so bad. It got that I just there was no way that I was going to get back on the bike. I stood around my car for a little while, and I thought that I was, but I didn't end up falling asleep at 2. Yeah.
So you lasted about 34 hours or so, it sounds like, 4 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Right. Yeah.
2 days later.
Yeah.
Still respectable. How many feet did you get?
I got 20. Oh, no, I got
31.
I got 31, yeah.
31 and something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was astounded.
Jeez.
That's nice.
And you did that on 4 hours of sleep?
Yeah, so my girlfriend, the day before, was supposed to have surgery, and the surgery it just essentially went long, and so I didn't get much sleep the night before. Yeah.
Family man. Good
Wow.
job.
Impressive.
I want to point out one thing real quick. I just realized, since we're talking about things Ben had to deal with, he did both these Everestings on a steel bike.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
No small feat.
Yeah. I love that I'm still riding the steel bike, because I was sure that months ago I would have retired it, and then
Still going.
I the only thing that's kept it going is I just tell myself, as soon as I'm consistently dropped from the group, as long as I'm hanging on, I'm riding the steel bike.
So there's nothing wrong with riding a steel bike, and I know for a fact that there are people that listen to this show that'll give you mad props for riding steel.
Oh, yeah.
Because steel is
There's mad
real,
props.
and they love that stuff. So that's awesome.
Good. Keep on the steel. You can ride that thing forever.
So that left Daniel and Fabian as the last men standing for the double Everesting attempt. What did you guys do once these 2 guys dropped out and were eating ice cream on the side of the road to kind of motivate yourselves to get to the second Everesting peak?
We just kept going, I guess. I don't know. We had someone
So
really
understated.
helped us during the night, which is Derek.
Yeah, Derek Bentley.
Derek Bentley. He rode the both nights with us, and I think it was a big factor for us not to fall asleep, because we had someone to talk to. I mean, we tried to talk together, but at some point, you're just too tired. You don't even want to talk.
Right. So he would be there talking and just asking you questions, or just keeping you awake by talking to you, not necessarily having you talk to him.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, you guys had a bunch of people come out and help support you as well as ride with you. How many people came out?
A lot.
Too much.
So many.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah.
We didn't even know some of
So
them.
nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Never even met
Yeah.
several of those people that, they just heard that it was happening and showed up. And
Yeah, that was really
It
cool.
was a big
laps.
event. It was popping up on all my social feeds a week
I think
before you
it
guys
was
did
at
it.
least 30 persons coming.
least.
huh?
At least, yeah.
30.
Yeah.
And some of them multiple times.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Jalman,
Yeah.
I think, was there 3 times also.
Yeah.
Just- yeah.
Yeah, seeing someone that shows up to the hill to support you, that is such a huge boost. It was such an enormous.
We had non-riding friends come out to support us.
Yeah.
Right,
Bring us
right.
food and hang out and chill for a minute or two, before we spun around for another lap.
Yeah.
What was the best food you guys got? Besides the Ben and Jerry's.
Those
The
burritos.
breakfast burritos.
Yeah.
Who made
Yep.
those burritos?
Those are from Taco Time, I think. Lula brought those.
No, there's another burritos earlier. It was on
Oh, the
Sunday.
potato
Oh my
burritos.
gosh,
yeah.
who brought those?
Those
Oh,
were
yeah,
so
yeah.
good.
Jonas.
Jonas.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He made those. And I was like, where did you get these? He's like, I made them. I'm like, oh my. Remember
You're a
those
god.
things?
the recipe.
So homemade potato burritos.
Yes.
That is
Potato,
the key to
avocado.
Everesting.
Those
Yeah.
were phenomenal.
with
Those-
egg.
Egg,
Lifesaver.
Yeah.
With egg in it?
Yeah.
I had him tell me
That's
every
awesome.
ingredient because I was so enthralled with
It
it.
was. I think that was the first real food someone brought us.
Yeah.
That was Sunday, right?
Yeah, I guess that was.
I
Yep.
think it was.
No,
yeah.
that was. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. So you guys finished your double Everesting about 46, 47 hours in, I believe.
48.
48?
48, I think I finished my double Everesting. Yes.
And then
Yeah.
after that, so you finished 48, did you feel good? Did you feel strong? Or did you feel empty?
I felt destroyed. My body was destroyed.
Yeah.
More than my brain and my mental was still there, but my knees were just too painful. I couldn't push through anymore.
Yeah.
And Daniel kept going to the double HRS. I stopped at the double Everesting just because my knees were too painful. I couldn't climb anymore.
Right,
I mean,
right.
yeah. And I was happy anyway with the double.
Yeah, you
Everesting.
finished. I mean, that was great.
Yeah. I mean, the initial goal was to go to the double HRS, so 20,000 meters.
Yeah. The double high rollers, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I started the ride, I was like, if I do one Everesting, I will be happy. If I do more than one HRS, I will be happy because it's more than what I did ever. And then I kept going, and I went to the double Everesting and was like just super happy to finish that. And
Yeah.
Nice.
my body was, if I knew that my knees were able to recover that quickly, maybe I would have pushed to the double HRS, but I didn't know that it was just a temporary, pain. I was afraid to have an injury or something.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to mess
So
around
I
with the
didn't
injuries.
want to,
So
push through.
speaking of the double HRS, so Daniel, you kept going after congratulating Fabian on his double Everesting, I'm sure, and eating a burrito. How many more laps was it to get the double High Roller Society, which is 20,000 meters, right?
Yeah. There were several people doing the math. I don't
think it was
remember.
15.
15 more.
Roughly,
laps.
15 more
it was
laps.
Ballpark 15, I believe. Because you did one,
146.
146?
I think you did 160.
Yeah.
I needed 160.
So 14 more.
14.
14,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Were you worried you weren't going to finish those 14, or did you feel completely confident that you had no problems going to finish those?
I don't know about confidence, but I definitely made a decision. Like the same thing I did with the rest of them. I guess I just decided that I was going to keep moving until I couldn't, and that never happened. So
Nice.
there was a lot of pain.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely had some issues sitting on the bike for the next week. My knee. I also had some knee issues, but I brought a brace with me that seemed to work pretty well. So that allowed me to keep pushing through it. And the people, again, just these two guys, Ben and Aaron, came back and finished it out
Yeah.
with me, like 7,000 feet at the end there, plus several other people. So that definitely made it easier riding into. Was that the third night? Yeah, that was riding
Monday
into
night.
riding into the
Fire.
third night, and it got dark again.
Yeah.
Having people there was huge. Yeah.
So this is going to be a weird question, and I apologize for making it weird for everybody. But did you guys know each other before you started doing this Everesting stuff together? Were you close?
Ben and I have been close for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And then Fabian and Ben and I got close about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, a little bit more.
Something like that, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then Daniel.
Yeah, I guess I'm the new addition.
Yeah. we when did I remember first riding with you because I was so excited because I knew who you were. No, I'm not even kidding. I was
No, this is true.
like,
Yeah.
this is true.
He was already a superstar.
Yeah,
come on.
I was like Strava stalking you. Yeah, no, I'm not even kidding. Like we saw your. I didn't even know what Everesting was, and then we saw your
Was
your
the Zoo Hill
your
one?
Zoo Hill one.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
And then we saw his Rafa ride, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's amazing. And I just started riding. I've only been riding for like 3 months at this point. But, you know, like I had stars in my eyes. And, and then I saw him at a cheer
Local
ride.
celebrity.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that was one of my Strava titles. He came out and rode with
Nice.
we do these morning rides, training rides all throughout the winter, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and he came out and won, and that was my title. But
Well,
anyway.
the reason I ask that is because it's clear just by seeing you guys interact with each other that if you weren't close before, this stuff brought you together. Like
Definitely.
the amount of camaraderie I see between you guys is amazing. So it struck me. That's the reason I asked the question.
We've
So.
spent a lot of time together. Maybe not in terms of number of times,
Yeah.
but in terms of hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And hard hours too, man.
Yeah.
Just being out there that long, hallucinating
I
with
spent
friends.
15 days all together riding with Ben. I saw that on Strava today.
Wait,
Tells you that?
Number of hours.
That's a stat.
Count up to 15
Where'd you
days.
see that?
15 days together,
Wow.
man.
You have
I
to show
want
me
that
that.
tool.
Don't tell my
I see
girlfriend.
So speaking of local celebrities, there was a video from a well-known YouTube channel, GCN, that profiled this double Everesting and the high rollers double that you guys did. Did you guys get contacted by the guys at GCN, or they just do it and you guys just got popular because of it?
Yeah. No, actually, 2 people locally, one of the guys on my race team and somebody else submitted it to them in one way or another. I'm actually not sure how. They actually apologized later. They didn't get a chance to do very much research. They kind of found out about it, I think, as they were shooting the episode. So they didn't cover it nearly as well as maybe we'd like, but it was great to have the idea out there.
Yeah. And I looked on the High Roller Society site, and I think there's only one person at the top with 20,000 meters, which is you. Like,
So
based on how I was able to sort, you were the only person that has done the double.
So
Is it
there's
accurate?
2, and I just learned this actually. The second time we did the Everesting, I learned that there is a separate list for High Roller Society from Everesting. So there's 2 lists. On the Everesting site, I have the second most elevation ever. The High Roller, I'm not sure.
Okay,
think
I
the
looked
guy
at High Roller
didn't-
today, and you were the top. You were the top.
Yeah, I
the
don't
second
think
guy
the
has
other guy
17,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
Craig Cannon didn't put it on high roller.
Must be not. Yeah,
on
just
the
like I
Everesting.
forgot, I didn't know
Yeah,
you
you
the first
didn't
time.
know. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. So you guys are local celebrities as well as worldwide known now from the GCN spot, which is awesome. So
Daniel and Fabian are very well known. I think Aaron and I are still pretty underground.
We haven't broke out yet.
Yeah.
we call you the
We're
sleepers.
waiting for our moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Waiting for the triple, man.
The triple.
Dude, I didn't want to say it, but yeah, the triple is out there. The triple is definitely out there. So I have 2 more questions for you guys. The first one is, what tips do you have for aspiring Everesters? Where should they start, and how should they begin their training?
Oh man, ride your bike.
Yeah. Ride your bike.
Ride your bike up hills.
I remember before
Yeah.
the first Everesting, we did a lot of climbing. We did a half Everesting at one
On
point.
Zoo Hill?
Yeah, on
Yeah.
Zoo Hill, just to see,
Also,
what it was about.
physically and mentally, it was a really good way to kind of like break it down, see what it was all about. And actually, that's how we got Daniel's attention.
That half Everesting?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I remember, like, I got a comment on that ride, and you Facebook messaged me and said, like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah,
Are you
guys
getting ready for an
planning
Everesting?
something?
Yeah.
I want in on it.
Yeah.
You must have an alert when there's an elevation profile that gets
Yeah.
hit or something. Hey, ding, somebody did 10,000. Go talk to that guy.
Yeah.
Any other tips for like just planning? Like you mentioned your butt hurt for a week on the bike after that. Like other than buying really nice chamois, I mean, what do you do? Just suffer through?
Well, that was the difficulty with Norway Hill, was the number of miles. So to hit that 20,000 meters was 473 miles on the bike. So no matter how you break it up, that's a really long time. So yeah, we're definitely looking into more endurance chamois.
I think another critical thing too is to keep the cadence up.
Yeah.
Because I remember
Yeah.
on the first one, Daniel was saying something about keeping it above 60 or something. I don't remember the number, but I remember mine was consistently falling under that, and my knees were screaming. These guys remember, they're like, they were surprised it didn't stop because I was probably complaining loudly at that point.
We could see how much it hurt. Like, yeah, you could tell just like watching him
Yeah.
ride. Like what
My
he was going
IT band had gotten
through.
so tight. It
Yeah.
was just. But anyway, yeah, keeping the cadence up, I think, is critical for saving the knees for the later part of the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So gearing real quick. What was your gearing in the back, Daniel?
1132.
All right.
On the first one, I was 1128. On the second one, I was 1132.
Smart, Fabian.
11:28.
Ooh.
11:28.
Wow.
On a
Okay.
steel bike.
On a steel bike.
Yeah. I want to jump in really quick, and I know a lot of people are going to get excited about buying stuff, and I'd just like to say, like, I'm guessing Aaron as well, like, was just riding on, and I'm sure Daniel, were just riding on budget ass bikes and on budget kit. Like, I had a more than like year-old bellwether chamois that I had gotten, so like my first chamois, so I could ride the STP. Did my steel bike, 1128 in the back. You know, like, it doesn't take a lot. You know, get the right gear, but you don't have to pay a lot for it. And just go out and ride your bike.
Yeah. And there are, if you do a YouTube search, there are so many different people that have done how to prepare for an Everesting. And I don't know, personally, if you, like Ben said, just ride your bike. If you like riding your bike and you like climbing hills, you're going to be okay. Like, just if you don't have a knee injury that reoccurs, you don't have a back injury that reoccurs, and you can deal with a little bit of sleep deprivation, just go have fun. Just decide you're going to do it and go. Yeah.
And pace yourself. I think it's
yeah.
one of the most important thing to do
Yeah.
when you do the Everesting. I mean, just try to keep your heart rate or your power at a level that you can keep for a long time.
Yeah.
And what tools do you use to measure your pace? Are you tracking heart rate? You tracking cadence? You tracking power?
Most of us, I think, were using the heart rate.
Heart rate.
Heart rate was definitely the most
That was
useful.
key.
Yeah.
Basically, stay in zone 2 as much as you can the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you said that, Fabian, actually, because a lot of people that talk to me about what we did, they seem to confuse, like, they think about a hill, like Zoo Hill, for instance, is a hill that kind of beats you up. Norway Hill is a hill that can kind of beat you up, right? So they think about how much pain they go through to do that hill. And they go, how did you do it 33 times? Or how did you do it 140 times? But they don't understand the effort level is minimal.
Yeah,
Like, when you keep your
exactly.
heart rate that low, you're in
yeah.
the lowest gear.
It's like if
stop
you are
for
on the
food.
flat, basically. Just
Yeah. We're chit-chatting as we go up the hill, you know.
Yeah, definitely talking pace.
Yeah. We're pretty comfortable. Yeah.
So what is next for the team? You mentioned triple a second ago.
So before that, I think the problem, if we want to do a triple,
I have to do a
at the
double.
pace we are going, it will take like 3 nights.
Yeah, we
We
have
have to do a
And-
different hill.
I mean, 2 nights, I think it's the maximum you can get with sleep deprivation. After that, it gets like very dangerous.
Right. Okay.
So I think what we want to do is to get faster at Everesting, at least one.
Yeah.
Doing one Everesting, but faster.
Compress the time needed.
So now
And then, yeah.
Do you guys have a target
yeah.
time or have you not discussed it yet?
We kind of sort of talked about like a 13-hour single Everest.
We've seen people have done 12. Obviously, there's the guy that did the 9. So,
He's questionable.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's obviously going to really come down to hill choice.
Yeah.
And then being trained really well for it.
How far will you guys drive to find the right hill?
I hope not far. Honestly, I want people to be able to come.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's another thing I wanted to point out real quick. Driving home after an Everest
Oh, not a good idea.
is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, don't do that.
Like, don't.
Because nothing works. You're a jello
No,
completely.
look, I don't remember falling asleep.
Oh, wow.
I was driving home and I woke up like probably 5 times. Don't do it. It's
Okay.
not worth it. Get a ride home. Do something else.
Uber it, yeah.
Don't make the
Sleep in your
mistake I
car.
did. I was
Yeah.
lucky, but it could have gone so wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had to actually pull over. I felt fine. I got in the car, got on the highway. And then, it was just, I shut down and I had to pull over and just say, hey, I can't go any further.
Yeah.
And then Fabian was feeling okay, so we traded off and got us home.
That's how he knew he could do a double because he
Yeah.
could drive home after a single.
Aaron and I were just like, nope, not happening. Yeah.
So you guys want to do a fast Everesting. Is it going to be this year that you practice this and get it done?
We've got a lot of
We've
stuff
had a
on the
lot of
calendar.
stuff this
Okay.
year.
So,
This year, no.
yeah.
Well,
Not-
in my opinion, part of the call for the double Everesting, like when you guys made those decisions to stop wherever you did, right? Part of it was we all had a conversation about a trip that we're taking in August. So I was lucky to get invited,
Yeah.
which I'm so pumped about. But so we're all going to France in August, and so we talked about any of our efforts leading up to that. We need to not get injured,
Yeah.
because otherwise that trip won't happen for us. So
Do they have any hills in France?
a couple,
Okay.
I've heard.
Yeah, I heard one.
Yeah,
maybe
just one,
2.
maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Starts
Yeah.
with a C.
Funny names.
C-O-L, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Very cool.
They're all in French. I can't understand.
I can't. I try and say them.
That's why we bring Fabian.
Yeah.
Perfect. Very smart.
Really why he's here.
All right.
No.
Well, man.
No rebut. No rebut.
Do you guys have any other tips for people before we close it down here and call it a day and let you guys get back to your training?
Have fun.
No? That just have fun, ride your bike, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Just ride your bike up hills.
Yeah.
Get out regularly, ride your bike.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show, guys. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to episode 21 of the Group Ride Podcast. To send me feedback about the show, ask a question, or request that I cover a specific topic, contact me on Twitter and Instagram at the Group Ride Pod and on Facebook at the Group Ride Podcast. If you want some cool Group Ride Podcast swag, make sure you sign up for the Group Ride Club. Membership is as cheap as $1. You can find out more at thegroupride.com/club. For our new listeners, make sure you check out the podcast archives at thegroupride.com, where you'll find shows with local riders and teams and even a UCI World Tour Pro. Subscribe to the show in your podcast player of choice to get instant access to new shows as they're released every Thursday throughout the season. Thanks again for listening to the show. I'm your host, Wes Salmon. See you on the next Group Ride.